In this episode, Joe Rogan and Charlie Sheen speak about experiences from Sheen's storied life and career. They begin by reflecting on the comedy and podcasting worlds, with Charlie expressing surprise that they had never crossed paths before, despite sharing social circles and working in similar industries over the years. Sheen reveals his long-standing aversion to the Hollywood party scene, red carpet events, and premieres. He describes the media frenzy and fake atmosphere surrounding such events as toxic and draining, referring to the staged photo ops as sterilizing and unnatural, akin to an unpleasant form of radiation. This sets a tone for the episode where Sheen appreciates genuine connection over fabricated celebrity rituals. Sheen also chats about how his early podcasting days differed vastly from today's polished shows. Back in 2011, when Rogan first expressed interest in having him on, Sheen was still doing smaller, often informal podcast sessions with friends, usually comedians, from his home. He notes that his early setup was far from the studio environment he records in today, describing a steady evolution necessitated by his lifestyle and the need to protect his family's privacy. One of the central topics Sheen explores is the difficulty of becoming a massive star at a young age and maintaining sanity and balance amid the relentless pressures of Hollywood fame. He emphasizes that very few young superstars navigate this journey without significant struggles or hiccups, describing the alien nature of celebrity life. Even for those who grew up witnessing the same challenges in close quarters, the fame bubble creates unimaginable isolation because few people outside the celebrity world can truly understand it. Sheen expands on how this isolation often forces celebrities to interact mostly with others in similar positions, which creates an echo chamber where everyone faces their own mental health battles. This, in turn, limits the scope of support available, as even friendships within celebrity circles involve people grappling with their own issues. Sheen opens up about his public breakdowns, especially during the time marked by his tiger blood persona and infamous winning catchphrase, acknowledging that this period was the worst kind of reinforcement. Rather than being a path to recovery, his highly publicized excesses became a spectacle that people couldn't look away from, turning his decline into a prolonged public event. This dynamic made it difficult for him to regain control or curb his addictions, as the media attention paradoxically encouraged the behavior rather than discouraging it. He candidly discusses how his self-destructive behavior, fueled by cocaine and testosterone use, intermingled with huge amounts of rage and bullying energy he wasn't accustomed to before. Sheen admits that the toxic mix distorted his personality and amplified aggressive tendencies, moving him towards a mode of acting as a tough guy with an entourage. He traces much of the root of his chaos back to personal life struggles, including 2 divorces occurring in quick succession and the difficulties of managing his responsibilities as a father amid immense pressure. A significant portion of the conversation revolves around Sheen's battles with substance use, particularly cocaine and testosterone. Sheen discusses how the combination created a dangerous toxic stew that compromised his judgment and emotional health. He shares surprising insights about testosterone replacement therapy, TRT cream, explaining the unintended consequences it can have not only on the user, but also on others around them through skin contact, a story he uses to highlight the complexity and risks involved in these substances. Sheen reveals that despite multiple rehab attempts, including several years around AA and other programs, he ultimately chose to get sober without the structure of a formal 12-step program. His sobriety journey relied more on personal commitment and reframing rather than traditional support groups or sponsorships, offering a non-conventional viewpoint on recovery. He emphasizes that sobriety for him came down to making firm decisions day by day rather than waiting for motivation or external pressures. The podcast delves deep into the nature of human memory and its unreliability, fueled by Rogan and Sheen's mutual interest in cognitive science. Sheen discusses how memories often exist more as blurry snapshots or reconstructed narratives than as precise records. They touch on how memories can become corrupted, overlaid with false elements, or influenced by retelling. Examples such as eyewitness discrepancies in major historical events emphasize how trauma can further degrade memory accuracy. This conversation branches into the implications of transhumanism and the desire for digital memory storage, suggesting that people's dissatisfaction with natural memory shortcomings may lead to technological solutions. Sheen highlights the irony of living in an age where technology perfects memory while human cognition is inherently flawed and vulnerable. The conversation turns biographical as Sheen recounts his unique upbringing on various major film sets, particularly the iconic Apocalypse Now, where he spent 8 or 9 months as a child. He paints vivid pictures of the surreal environment and the massive scope of the production, as well as the dangers and difficulties inherent in making such a film on location in the Philippines. While young, he had little grasp of the scale beyond it feeling otherworldly and unlike anything he'd experienced before. Sheen also reflects on his own acting journey, including starring in Platoon, which was filmed roughly a decade later in Vietnam. The connection between these early experiences and his deep immersion into roles about war and trauma gives insight into how his upbringing influenced his career choices. He contrasts Platoon with Apocalypse Now, calling the latter a masterpiece with unmatched scope and impact. Sheen discusses his experiences within the sitcom world, especially referencing his time on 2.5 Men and later projects like Anger Management. He candidly admits to losing passion for the work during the later stages of his sitcom career, explaining how the grind coupled with substance abuse made performances challenging. He shares his internal struggles with finding motivation and focus, often hiding behind his condition and making excuses on set. The multi-camera sitcom format, once a television staple, is described as a high-pressure environment requiring precise timing, breath control, and energy that become even more difficult when the performer is dealing with personal turmoil. Sheen emphasizes the loss of enthusiasm after years on successful shows and how difficult it is to maintain creative integrity under such strains. An extensive part of the dialogue ventures into the realms of political and cultural conspiracies, including deep dives into the JFK assassination, the Warren Commission report, and discrepancies surrounding the event. Sheen and Rogan discuss various inconsistencies, the controversial magic bullet theory, and suspicious deaths of witnesses, emphasizing the complexity and unsettled nature of many historical narratives. They point out physical evidence detail, autopsy contradictions, and how these have fueled decades of conspiracy theories. Furthermore, they touch upon the devious cultural engineering allegedly done by the CIA in the late 1960s and early 70s, such as their connection to Charles Manson and the tactic of discrediting the anti-war and civil rights movements through orchestrated chaos. Sheen expresses astonishment at how systematic efforts were made to manipulate cultural shifts by turning peace movements into perceived violent threats. Throughout the episode, Sheen shares numerous personal stories involving renowned figures such as Rodney Dangerfield, Jack Nicholson, and Quincy Jones. He recounts amusing and revealing moments, like Dangerfield performing in a bathrobe backstage, or Quincy Jones working on the Thriller album during hot yoga sessions. These anecdotes highlight the colorful personalities that shaped entertainment history and provide rare glimpses into their eccentricities. Sheen's reflections on Dangerfield's career revival and Nicholson's cocaine habits give perspective on the harsh realities and eccentricities behind the scenes in show business. These stories enrich Sheen's narrative about perseverance, reinvention, and managing the lifestyle pressures of fame. Sheen offers profound insights into his life post-addiction, crediting his sobriety as a vital factor in repairing his relationships and reclaiming his stability. He highlights the reconnecting and co-parenting with his children as a central motivation for his recovery. His sobriety has also coincided with creative new projects, such as the documentary and book about his life, which he views as a reset rather than a traditional comeback. He encourages a grounded approach to sobriety that rejects false promises or external impositions, emphasizing personal responsibility and choice. Sheen's story counters the romanticized idea of rehab and recovery often portrayed in Hollywood, focusing instead on the everyday grit it requires. Towards the end, Rogan and Sheen pivot to contemporary social issues, discussing the tragic shooting of Charlie Kirk and the increasingly divisive political environment in the United States. They mourn the loss and decry the toxic culture of political extremism, violence, and the destructive rhetoric that polarizes society. Both express concerns about how online bots, paid propaganda, and social media algorithms exacerbate division and hinder genuine dialogue. Sheen stresses the importance of respectful discourse and condemns the celebration of violence against people holding differing opinions. Their conversation underscores the urgency for civility and empathy in today's fractious political climate. Before wrapping up, Sheen and Rogan share thoughts on health, wellness, and self-care practices. They discuss the benefits of sauna therapy and hot yoga, reflecting on how both modalities help manage stress, improve flexibility, and promote overall physical and emotional balance. Sheen recounts experiences working out with figures like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Quincy Jones, noting how a regimen of hot yoga contributed to creative breakthroughs and mental clarity. Sheen's approach to health emphasizes consistency and holistic care as foundational for longevity and vitality, underscoring the importance of integrating physical wellness routines into daily life. This practical advice contrasts with the chaos of his earlier years, symbolizing a journey toward balance and sustainability.